Imagine having more wisdom than anyone else on earth, yet feeling a dark shadow creeping into your heart. Today, we'll explore the hidden darker side of Solomon, the wisest king in the Bible, and uncover what his story can teach us.
Late one night, Solomon lay in bed when God came to him in a dream. Imagine the King of Heaven speaking so gently that Solomon could almost whisper back. God said, "Ask for whatever you want." Solomon thought about it. He could have asked for long life, mountains of gold, or power over every nation. But Solomon remembered his father David's battles and how hard it was to lead people. He felt small and knew he needed help to make good choices. So Solomon spoke, "Please, give me a wise and understanding heart so I can lead your people and tell right from wrong." He wanted to serve others, not himself. When Solomon woke, he didn't know if it was real, but soon God answered. Solomon's mind became sharper than anyone's. He could see the truth in puzzles and stories. Word of Solomon's wisdom spread like wildfire. Visitors came from far away just to hear him speak. A queen rode a long, dusty road to test him with tricky questions, and Solomon answered them all. His words were so clear and fair that people nearly wept. One famous story shows how wise he was. Two women argued over a baby. Each claimed the child as her own. Solomon calmly said, "Cut the baby in two and give each woman half." One mother cried out to save her child's life, willing to give him away. The other agreed to the cruel plan. Solomon then knew which one truly loved the baby and gave him to her. Because of Solomon's wisdom, Israel enjoyed years of peace. Neighbors stopped bickering, trade grew, and people built homes and schools. Everyone felt safe, knowing their king cared more about justice than treasure. In choosing wisdom first, Solomon changed his kingdom's story. His humble request set a shining example. When we ask for wisdom and use it for good, even the smallest voice can make the world better.
Solomon built the magnificent temple in Jerusalem. It took 7 years of hard work from thousands of workers. The walls were lined with cedar wood from Lebanon, and the inner rooms were coated in gold that glowed under the sunlight. It stood as a symbol of the strong bond between God and Israel. Inside the temple, Solomon placed 2 giant golden cherubim with wings that touched each other. The floor was made of precious stones, and sweet incense filled the air. Every morning, priests burned sweet spices that floated up to heaven. Visitors felt a quiet peace as they knelt to pray. Beside the temple, Solomon built a grand palace for himself that stretched across many courts. He built city walls to protect Jerusalem and built storehouses, armories, and gates. The palace was so large that people said its walls stretched further than the eye could see. Soldiers and servants filled its halls each day. Solomon's wealth grew beyond measure. He collected mountains of gold and silver, spices and fine cloths. Merchants loaded ships in the port of Ezion-Geber, bringing treasures back to Israel on huge caravans. His treasures were stored in vaults that were guarded day and night. Solomon loved horses and chariots, and he kept thousands of them. He trained riders and built stables filled with strong steeds. His horses were known as the fastest in all the nearby kingdoms. With swift chariots, his army seemed unstoppable across the land. Traders from Egypt and Tyre came with cedar logs, ivory, and gemstones. They traded these goods for wheat, olive oil, and horses. Goods arrived on ships and on camels that crossed sandy deserts. This trade made Israel rich and connected to faraway lands. News of Solomon's greatness reached the Queen of Sheba. She traveled weeks through desert heat to see his wisdom and wealth. She brought gifts of spices, gold, and precious stones to honor his wisdom. When she arrived, she stood in awe of his palace and asked him many questions. Under Solomon's reign, Israel enjoyed a time of peace and plenty. Fields grew abundant crops, families built homes, and children laughed in the streets. This golden age became a story that would be told for generations. Everyone spoke of the king whose glory shone like the morning sun. Solomon made alliances with neighboring kingdoms by marrying many foreign princesses, one by one, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite princesses came to live in his palace. Each brought her own customs and her own gods. At first, Solomon's heart was full of wisdom, but as he spent more time with these new wives, he began to build shrines for their idols, gods like Ashtoreth and Chemosh, on the hills around Jerusalem. He thought, if they feel at home worshipping their gods, they will stay loyal to me. Solomon didn't see it as wrong at first. He told himself that a king must be flexible to keep peace. Every morning, priests burned incense and poured out offerings not only to the Lord, but also to these other deities. Stone statues and carved images filled the courtyards, even inside Solomon's own chambers. Bit by bit, Solomon's devotion shifted. He had once knelt only before the one true God, listening for a whisper in his dreams. Now his prayers were mixed, like two colors blending until you can't tell one from the other. His wisdom was still great, but his heart was breaking its first promise. Neighbors noticed the change. The peace that wisdom brought began to crack. Farmers whispered that the rains were late, and merchants spoke nervously about threats on the borders. In Jerusalem's temple, the priests felt a heaviness in the air as they carried out rituals to both the Lord and foreign idols. Solomon's story reminds us that even the clearest mind can be clouded by small compromises. When we let outside influences lead our hearts away from what is true, we risk losing what makes us strong. Even a king can drift, one choice at a time, when he forgets to guard his heart. Solomon died after ruling for 40 years, and his son Rehoboam became king. But Rehoboam wasn't like his father. He didn't seek wisdom. He sought control. When the people asked for kindness and lighter burdens, Rehoboam answered with pride. "My father made your load heavy," he said. "I will make it heavier." Instead of winning hearts, he created enemies. The people of Israel were tired. They had seen Solomon's glory, but also his decline. When Rehoboam refused to listen, 10 of the 12 tribes rebelled. They left and followed a new leader named Jeroboam, just as God had said would happen. Only the tribes of Judah and Benjamin remained loyal to the house of David. The once great nation of Israel was now split in two, Israel in the north, Judah in the south. Brothers became rivals, unity became division. Jeroboam feared his people would return to the temple in Jerusalem, so he built golden calves in his own land and told the people to worship there. The cycle of idolatry continued. What began with Solomon's compromise had now become a national disaster. Battles broke out between the two kingdoms. Instead of peace, there was tension. Instead of wisdom, there was confusion. The golden age had passed, and the cracks Solomon left behind had broken wide open. The dream that started with such beauty, a wise king, a peaceful land, and a temple for God, had ended in division and spiritual ruin. And yet, God's promise still stood. From David's line, one would come who would rule forever in justice and peace. The kingdom may have been broken, but the plan of redemption was not. Solomon's story teaches us something powerful. Wisdom is not enough if your heart forgets who gave it to you. You can be the smartest person in the world, but if your heart drifts from what's right, even your greatest gifts can lead you into darkness. Solomon started with humility. He asked God for wisdom, not wealth. And because of that, God gave him everything. But as the years passed, Solomon became more focused on keeping peace with nations than keeping peace with God. He didn't lose his wisdom in one day. He slowly stopped using it to honor God. The danger wasn't just in the idols. It was in the small decisions Solomon made every day. One extra wife here, one small shrine there. He didn't fall off a cliff. He slid down a hill without noticing. That's a warning for all of us. Most people don't suddenly turn away from what's right. They drift. They stop praying. They compromise once. They make excuses. Solomon probably thought, "I'm still wise, I'm still king, I can handle this." But wisdom without obedience is like a lamp with no oil. It looks bright, but it can't light your path. God wasn't angry because Solomon made a mistake. He was grieved because Solomon knew better. He had met God. He had built the temple. He had seen what obedience looked like, and still, he chose his own way. The lesson? Stay close to God, even when you feel strong, especially when you feel strong. Don't trade your calling for comfort. Don't allow influence or relationships to pull your heart away from what's true. If the wisest man on earth can fall, then we need to walk carefully too. But here's the good news. Solomon's story didn't end in total ruin. Even in his last words in Ecclesiastes, Solomon speaks with a humbled heart. He says, "Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Solomon's fall teaches us not to worship the gift, but the giver. Because the real treasure isn't wisdom or riches. It's a heart that stays faithful to God.